Now, there are many games that use time as either a feature or just a core element of the game itself. Games like Majora's Mask, Life is Strange, that one game Deathloop that was a thing for a little bit. However, one thing all of these games share is that sense of direction. There's always an objective, there's always a quest, or some place that you need to go in order to push the story forward. But there is one game out there that uses time for something completely different. A game that truly sets itself apart from the rest in many ways. Because in this game, there is no objective, there is no quests, there is no guides, there is no path or anything telling you where to go. The only goal in this game is simple: go into space and explore. Now sure, some games have done this before, the whole exploration of space itself. We have No Man's Sky, which, started off terrible, but ended up getting better as time went on. But the problem with that game is it's extremely expansive to the point where it's kind of overwhelming, and it's kind of a severe lack of content because of that. It's kind of ironic that whenever you get everything, it at the same time feels extremely empty. And the same goes for a lot of space-oriented type games. Elite Dangerous, for example, is more digestible, but still feels quite overwhelming at times. And you also really can just explore a small portion of a planet, because most of the time the entire planet is completely barren except the content area. And the same goes for a game like Starfield, where it's mostly just warping to different locations rather than space travel itself. And just like I mentioned in Elite Dangerous, the content is in a specific part of the said planet. Now, Outer Wilds, it definitely sets itself apart when it comes to gaming, but there's something else I want to talk about that sets itself apart from the rest. Now, let's be real. Your browser, kind of boring, kind of slow, and not really well optimized, and most importantly, it's not personalized. Now, what if I told you there's a browser out there that has so much customization options you can make it look like this? Oh, what's that? You want to hear farts every time you type? I mean, sure, it's weird, but you can do that. Do you want to have a specific song play whenever you open your browser? Or a specific sound when you open up a different tab? Well, welcome to Opera GX, a browser focused on originality, optimization, and most importantly, customization. Opera GX offers a slew of mods that it honestly can become overwhelming at times with the amount of things you could do. Especially for the anime lovers and the game lovers out there, this is perfect for you. Now let me just show you just a few of the changes you can make when you download a simple mod pack. You could go to the Opera GX store and there's loads and loads of different mod packs you can download. For example, in Outer Wilds mod pack, perfect. Every time you open Opera GX, you will be greeted with the beautiful soundtrack of Outer Wilds. You could change the keyboard sound to whatever you want, opening and closing the tab sounds, themes and colors of your I love the wallpaper that came with this Outer Wilds mod pack, but you can put whatever you want on here. And also you can disable and enable any individual modification you want. Say you don't want the background music whenever you open it, you could turn that off. And that goes for every different variation of mod you could turn on and off. Whenever you download Opera GX and open it for the first time, it'll ask you whether or not you want to import all of your information from a different browser into Opera GX, so you don't have to do all of the annoying stuff of having to add everything back. So do yourself a favor, spice up your browser life and click that link in the description to get Opera GX for free today. So what exactly is Outer Wilds' solution to this problem when it comes to space travel games? Well, their solution is actually extremely simple and kind of sounds goofy, but just make the planet smaller. Instead of putting realistic sized planets with the content in a small subsection of that planet, they just made the planet smaller and you're able to explore every single inch of that planet, and every inch of that planet has content. However, that doesn't solve everything. That doesn't fix the problem that a lot of these games have. Because what happens whenever you hit that feeling of just being overwhelmed and not sure what to do next? I mean, like I said, this game has no direction whatsoever, so what is the driving force behind even playing the game in the first place? Well, they solved every problem that I mentioned with one simple mechanic: putting the whole game in a constant time loop. Now, on the surface, time loops seem counterproductive, like If you're in the middle of doing something and then you have to go back to the beginning and try to do it again, doesn't that feel kind of silly and make you not want to keep going forward? Because putting a time limit on a game that is meant for you to explore as much as possible and gain as much knowledge, it just seems silly to just put it on a time loop. But actually, it's the thing that makes this game perfect. Because this time loop in Outer Wilds is actually the exact thing that makes you want to keep coming back. You fly out into space, you find your first planet, you start to get excited, you start learning some things only to be pulled back to the beginning of the game. Now you stop and think, well, now I want to go back. It's like watching a show and every episode has like a really strong cliffhanger at the end that just keeps you wanting more. That's exactly that feeling you get every time you refresh the time loop. I need to finish that thing that I was doing. I want to learn more about what that situation was. And there you have it. That's your sense of direction. Every time you restart the time loop, you have a new goal. You have a new direction to go. Is it a direction based on what the game's telling you to do? No, it is your direction. You get to decide where to go. This game truly abuses humans' curiosity and uses it as a tool to push the game forward. Now, we live in a time where, let's be real, games are quite spoon-fed to the player a lot of times. Every game has a quest, it has objectives, tasks to complete, maps, specific set of directions, fast travel, which personally, that way of playing games tends to just not really fulfill you. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some amazing games that have these things, but a lot of times it's nice to be able to do the thing yourself, to find out that thing by yourself. Now, to be fair, this is coming from someone who really likes challenges when it comes to games, like beating Doom Eternal on Ultra Nightmare or doing a no-death run of Dark Souls 3. You know, I always like to challenge myself when it comes to games. And with that mindset, a lot of times in games, I don't necessarily like to be told what to do. It's a different kind of immersion when you just do the thing yourself and discover something yourself. And honestly, a lot of times it's quite counterproductive whenever you're playing an open world game and you're just constantly told what to do and where to go. You pick up all these quests and you just follow a direct line of path consistently over and over and over. I feel like a more recent game that has done this quite well is Elden Ring. It's really taken advantage of the game design itself to show you the path rather than just being told where to go. You could kind of go wherever you want. Now the Sites of Grace do give you a direct path to the main line of the story, but you can play the game however you want to. You could go wherever you want to go, and there's no right or wrong way to play the game. And I wish a lot more games took this path of game design. But the problem with doing that is it's extremely hard because you need to create a game in a way that leads the player without necessarily telling the player where to go. It leads them with clues rather than direction. And creating a game like that is extremely hard. And in today's age, no one really cares about quality. They'd rather just figure out the best way to make money when it comes to gaming. And also, it just appeals to more people whenever there's a game with just set things you need to do. Most people would rather be told what to do than try to figure it out for themselves. But Outer Wilds managed to perfect this. That immediate sense of just freedom and discovery and excitement of what you're about to discover. It was a refreshing change from the usual hand-holding in games, and it made every new discovery feel like a personal achievement. I honestly don't think I've ever been so immersed in a game before in my entire life. And this evolution of gaming was all started as just a simple college project. Alex Beecham set out to create a game with the sole purpose of moving forward to satisfy the player's curiosity. Like I said before, this game really abuses your curiosity. They want to change the way people look at games, make it where every person who plays that game has a different experience. Sure, all of us will end up in the same location in the end, but the path to get there is all based on the player's curiosity, the knowledge they discover. Alex was actually heavily inspired by the Legend of Zelda games, and the inspiration didn't actually come from the game itself, but it came from what the game lacked, that pure sense of discovery. He wanted to make a game not about conquering planets or fighting aliens. He wanted to make a game in space for the very reason people are interested in space in the first place. The mystery, the adventure, the curiosity. And eventually he did team up with a couple friends and created a demo version of what would become Outer Wilds. And that was already winning awards before Outer Wilds was even created. And actually, the main reason for these awards was the innovation in design when it came to space exploration. There has never been a game that so perfectly encapsulates what it feels like to be in space. Now, don't get me wrong, obviously, I've never been in space. And also, there are definitely more realistic versions of space travel in games, but really, I just feel like the super realism when it comes to the size and vastness of space honestly kind of ruins the enjoyment of the game. You either have to wait 10 minutes to get to a certain planet, or you just have to fast travel because it's boring waiting 10 minutes to get to another planet. But the thing about Outer Wilds is they have created a complete working solar system that is in constant motion. Planets that have an orbit, they have a gravity pull, and you can use all of these things to your advantage. For example, using a planet's gravity to kind of slingshot your way to get a speed boost. There are moments what kind of mess with your head when you're on the bottom of the planet and you go into space and then back into the gravity field, and just how everything moves, it just feels like space. Attempting to land on a fast-moving comet, falling into a black hole. Everything is acting as a working, functioning solar system. Now, all of that seems completely impossible to code, right? To have something that enormous, a working solar system in constant motion, no matter where you are or what planet you are on, you can actually have your ship, your radar, and yourself on completely different locations around the solar system, and everything will work the same. Things will happen on the planet with the ship, things will happen on the planet with the radar, and things will happen on the planet with you. It's all in constant motion. So how do they get all of these things to work perfectly? Well, the answer is the one thing that brings everything together in this game. The best way to make it to where this entire solar system can consistently exist without any problems is putting it within a time loop. It's genius because they are using this mechanic not only in the sense of game development, but also in the context of the story that unravels throughout the game. Everything connects to this time loop because on top of the writing and on top of the game development, that time loop is also the thing that keeps pulling you back, the thing that keeps pushing your curiosity forward. You want to keep playing until that curiosity is satiated. Every piece of this game comes together like a puzzle. Every planet has moving parts. Some planets fall apart, others get more dangerous as the time goes on. There are things that you can only do at certain moments of a time loop. Every new loop, you plan a new route to reach that new goal that you want to achieve. It doesn't mock the player's intelligence, it respects it, it hopes for it. And one thing about space that this game truly grasps perfectly is how dangerous space can be. This game is not easy by any means. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely easy areas, but there are some moments in this game that are quite frustrating at times, and it's all because of the fact that it's in space. There are times where I'm attempting to land on a comet and all of a sudden I get sucked into the sun. You will be crushed. You will be launched into space, thrown back into a planet, suffocated. The different gravity on different planets can kill you. There will be many times where you will get out of your ship and completely forget to put on your spacesuit and just die. The fact that all of these different elements are happening all at the same time throughout the solar system still blows my mind. That is the one thing that truly challenges the player in this game. It's not a walk in the park. And there are times where you try to do something very, very difficult and then find out later on there was actually a very easy way to get to that thing. You just didn't explore enough. Like, for example, trying to land on the sun station. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. And there's another element I want to talk about here that isn't talked about much. This game, honestly, is scary at times. And no, not scary in the sense of, oh, there's gonna be jump scares. It's scary in the sense of loneliness and the fear of the unknown. There are so many things that happen in this game that before you understand them, it kind of freaks you out. Not to mention, you're in outer space. If you wanted to, you could literally just keep flying away from the solar system and just look out at the, okay, Maven. If you wanted to, you could just fly directly away from the sun as long as you can and just stare out at all of these stars. Some of them are turning into supernovas off into the distance. Not to mention the sheer scale of everything. There will be moments you will stop and just stare at something. There are so many moments in this game that are just beautiful in terms of the scale, on and off planets. I really feel like it depends on how engrossed you get into the game, but there are times where I just stopped and just looked around and just took in my surroundings, soaked everything in. Just something about looking up and just seeing a planet move around and seeing a moon move around. Seeing all these moving parts just feels so real. Now, for a little bit, I'm going to be talking about the planets, so this is minor spoiler territory. I'm not going to give away any mystery. Hell, if anything, I'm going to be giving away little hints here and there that might help you guys along in your journey, because trust me, you're gonna need it. Timber Hearth is your home. We all can obviously compare Timber Hearth to Earth, you know, Earth and Earth. This planet is where you and all of the Hearthians live. The entire town on this planet acts as kind of a tutorial before you go out in space. There's a mini shuttle to show you how to control your shuttle, a museum showing all of the things that you might encounter throughout space, and it's pretty interesting because the museum gets bigger and bigger and it adds more stuff as you find stuff out in space. And one thing that's really cool is everyone in the town is super excited for you to go out in space. I remember the first time playing this game, I was just taken aback at how little information I was given. And you walk around and everyone just says, all right, time for you to go get your code and go on the ship and just fly out into space. I just go out in space and just what do I do? It honestly made me a little bit nervous the first time. I thought there'd be a little bit more buildup, a little bit more direction. But everyone just says, go get your launch codes and get out of here, kid. Which, interesting fact, originally the Hearthian people were meant to scare you and say, no, space is terrifying. Don't go out into space. You're gonna die. But they actually opted to go a different direction, a more positive direction, which I'm kind of glad they did because it makes flying out into space a little less daunting. And Timber Hearth is not without its mysteries. Brittle Hollow is a planet that is collapsing in on itself due to a black hole you will discover when you enter its dangerous terrain. Its moon is constantly shooting fireballs at its surface, making it very dangerous to traverse. And the mysteries you find inside are some of the coolest uses of space travel I've ever seen in a game. Honestly, design-wise, this planet is definitely up there when it comes to some of my favorite planets. Just that concept of a planet kind of collapsing in on itself with the black hole, and there's like mysteries you have to find while flying around a black hole. It's just so cool. There's no other way to describe it. It's just cool. Then there's Dark Bramble. Here's that planet. It's great. Trust me, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love all that you find in Dark Bramble. Trust me, it's not as scary as it looks, right? Right, guys? People who played the game, you know what I'm talking about, right? The Hourglass Twins are definitely my favorite planets. Two planets that constantly orbit each other, connected by sand pouring in between the two. This game, like I said, a lot uses time in such a cool and unique way. Every time you go to a different planet, every planet is using time in a way that is just cool. And these planets are number one when it comes to the cool factor, because there are so many things you could do only in a specific time of a time loop. This is a planet you definitely need to time correctly to find every secret it holds within. But it's also one of the coolest, visually stunning planets to stand on. I mean, you're standing on a planet and you're witnessing another planet fly around the planet while pouring a bunch of sand on the other planet, while that planet starts filling up with the sand and the other one loses all the sand. It's just cool. I keep saying the word cool, but these planets are so cool. Then we have the Giant's Deep, which is a giant gas planet covered in an ocean. Now, this planet is definitely very dangerous and hard to traverse. There are islands that get blown out into space and then sucked back into the planet. There are tornadoes. There are loads of different secrets on this planet, not only on the surface, but out in space and deep within the planet. So all I could say about this planet is don't ignore anything. Everything has a purpose, and if you think that there's something there, there's probably something there. And we also have the Interloper, which is a comet that orbits the sun in a huge oval shape. Time is an important factor when it comes to this comet. Now, I'm only going to be talking about the planets that are kind of, visible. There are other things out there that need to be explored, but there's a special way that you need to get to these things. And you will find out how to get to these things, obviously, just by going through the story, reading every log, and getting all that knowledge. Which leads me to the writing. Now, there is no voice acting in this game whatsoever, which I know reading in video games can be a little bit of a turnoff for some people. But I want to tell you guys, I am someone who doesn't love reading in video games, and I absolutely loved it in this game. So every planet you go to, there are walls with different glyphs on them, and you have a translator to translate these messages. And why the writing is so different is all of this stuff that you read, they're not like journal entries, they're not data logs, which you see a lot in games. You know, you walk along, you find a journal here and there, you find a log here and there, and it's written very simply. They tell you the exact information you need at the exact time that you get there. How do you write a story when there is no start, middle, right? There's an end that everyone eventually gets to, but there's no start or middle. The player's the one who decides how the story goes. It's almost like you're eavesdropping in a conversation that was recorded. You're basically reading ancient text from an ancient civilization that traveled these planets before you. And everything you read tends to just be conversations or dialogue between people unless they're alone. You start to piece together what they were trying to do, where they were trying to go, what mystery they were trying to solve. You even start learning their names and who they are as people. Each character has their own different personality, and it becomes so interesting because it's almost like you start retracing their steps. Then there will be puzzles and clues intricately written in these simple conversations, which is why you really start to engross yourself in the lore and reading. I really can't think of another game where I found myself so deeply immersed in everything. You completely forget about the outside world. There are moments in the game where I walk away from my computer and I just can't stop thinking about what I witnessed or what I learned all day. The discoveries and all that different stuff, it just sticks with you. There's truly no other game like this. It's actually quite interesting because Mobius Digital was the company that was kind of formed in order to create Outer Wilds. And actually Masaoka, a pretty big actor who was famous in that one show Heroes, was actually the one who funded the Outer Wilds project and pushed it forward. Mobius Digital was like just a small group of creators that came together and made something absolutely beautiful. There's another thing I do want to talk about when it comes to this game. It's a standout thing that people who have played Outer Wilds know exactly what I'm talking about, and that is the soundtrack. The music in this game combines that comfort of sitting around a fireplace with the mystery and uneasy feeling of space. Not only is the soundtrack something that you will probably listen to the rest of your life, but they use the music as a mechanic itself. Now, if you know me, I'm a huge believer in music being a big part of games. And not just games, you know, shows, movies, anime, so much more. A lot of times people overlook the extreme power that music has when it comes to these things. But Outer Wilds uses its music as a way of direction. Now, space is completely lonely feeling. Let's be real. I mean, sometimes when you're playing this game and you're out there amongst the billions of stars, but then all of a sudden, you just hear a simple guitar riff off in the distance. And if you follow this music, you actually find other space travelers that are trying to do the same thing that you're doing. And it does give you that sense of comfort, that fireplace moment when it comes to the music of this game. It gives you that sense of you aren't alone. I just think it's awesome that using music to bring people together in a game, that's just one of the coolest things that you could possibly do. Every time you discover a puzzle in this game, it's mind-blowing. The creative ways that they make things work when it comes to this game is so interesting. This game is not normal by any means. It's really an experience. Every player will have their own experience, which leads to an ending that makes you question a lot of things. It makes you ask questions that you ask when you're sitting outside by a fireplace staring up at the stars. Questions like, why are we here? I mean, we're so small and insignificant to the space around us. What happens when we die? If the world ended now, what would you do? Who would you spend it with? How would you react? This game pulls at your heartstrings and will leave you with a feeling that will stick with you for a long time. And remember, the clock always keeps ticking.